You're listening to the Teach Better Talk podcast featuring expert educators eager to share progressive tactics to reach more students. Teach Better Talk is created by teachers and fueled by passion. Let's get started. Hey, what's up, podcast? It is Jeff, and you are listening to a special bonus episode of Teach Better Talk. You know, I joke around a lot, and we have a lot of fun on here, Ray and I know I poke at her a lot, I make fun of her a lot. Some might even say I torment her. But one thing that none of that changes is the fact that I love Ray to death. She is amazing, and she is such a phenomenal and dynamic speaker. So much fun to watch. I joke with her, but I'm so fortunate to be able to work with her and to get to do this podcast with her. So it's super exciting when I get to share some awesomeness and some of her awesomeness with you. So this is a audio capture of Ray's keynote out in Hot Springs, Arkansas, this past June of 2019 at the Hot Springs Technology Institute. And during this talk, Ray touches on a lot of stuff. So fair warning, this is a little bit longer episode than normal because her keynote is fairly long, and I did not want to cut any of it out because Ray touches on a whole lot of things. So this was a tech institute, and it was really focused around how do we make technology more purposeful in the classroom. And there are a lot of IT support leaders in the room, and she's speaking largely to them, and she's going to talk around the theme of, oh, how I hate the IT, which is actually an online course that Ray did as well, sort of the same topic. And what it really is, it's not really about IT. It's about relationships and how we can work together with our colleagues, with our support team, or with those teachers who we support, and how we can work together to be better for students and utilize technology in the right way. And really, you can replace technology with just about anything in a lot of what Ray's talking about, because it's really just about working together, building those relationships. She does focus a little bit on the sort of 8 types of people we might run into and teachers we might run into that need support when it comes specifically to IT. She talks a lot about just sort of the general teach better mindset of always being open-minded and ready to learn and grow. You know, part of what she was doing in this talk was getting all of these teachers and these IT support leaders ready to take on the rest of the conference. So she really talks about sort of having that teach better mindset and sharing your awesomeness. And then she also goes into a little bit of a tangent about pop, soda, and Coke, depending on where you live in the United States and what you might call it. So there's a lot of fun in this keynote from Ray, and lots and lots of value. So I hope you get a ton out of it. Share out what you think. Give me a tweet at Jeff Gargas. Make sure you tag #TeachBetter or #TeachBetterTalk, and let me know what you think about this these bonus episodes that we're doing, and specifically this one with Ray out in Hot Springs, Arkansas. So here it is, bonus episode, Ray Hewart keynote from June 2019 at the Hot Springs Technology Institute.
At this time, I would like to introduce to you not only a dynamic individual, which I can assure you she is. Ray is a middle-level math educator in Illinois, the creator of the Teach Further model, and the director of training and development for the Teach Better team. In 2017, Ray was honored with the Illinois State University Outstanding Young Alumni Award, inducting her into the University of Hall of Fame. Ladies and gentlemen, Ray Hewart.
I have to tell you, they are so foolish, they gave me a microphone. I am a loud talker because I am a 6th grade math teacher, so if it's too loud, you gotta wave to that guy so he knows. But how you doing? Good. So my hope for you as we spend some time together is that you can get as much out of this hour as possible to get you revved up and ready for the rest of your day. I do want to ask, though, getting to know a little bit about you, how many of you are on social media for professional use? All right, a few of you. That could be Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or anything in between. My students always tell me, how about Snapchat? I'm like, all right, fine. If you are on social media, you need to be using it during this conference. There is so much going on. So even while I'm speaking, I will not scold you being on your phone if you are sharing out what you're learning, because there are thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of educators that are not learning today, and you can change that for them. So I really want to encourage you to be actively participating, especially since if you tweet out, then I'll see it and we can stay connected after today, because this is just the beginning of an entire adventure that you and I are about to take together, and hopefully this is a continuation of the journey that you were taking before this crazy lady got on stage. So today we are focused on, oh, how I hate the IT. Now, I think this title is hysterical. It was not my idea. I was actually at a separate conference in Rhode Island, and I bumped into a gentleman named Bruce, and he was like, Ray, I got this great idea for a presentation. We need to do a session about how teachers are goofy and working with resistant educators is really tricky. And I was like, all right, what are we going to call it? He's like, how about, oh, how I hate the IT? And I'm like, oh, how I hate that title. But it'll be great, because we have a lot that we are going to dive into, and it actually has to do with not just teachers, but administrators, coaches, IT leaders, anything in between. So before we get started, how many of you are an educator in the classroom teacher? Yeah, you my people. Me too. How many of you are coaches serving a leadership role that just supports teachers? Admin? All right, cool. How many of you are IT leaders? IT coaches? Nice. Okay, so we got a good mix in here. That's awesome. I want to start with something that has nothing to do with education, because you've already spent some time thinking that that's why you were here, is to talk education, but we're not. This is a picture of my really cute family. It's actually, it's my husband in the blue suit. He looks dashing. My sister and her fiance are on the other side, and then my parents are on the far side. And I always like to show a picture of my family, because growing up, my family was so strict. Holy moly, my parents. They were like, gosh, the parents I used to read about. They were so strict. And we lived a beautiful life. I grew up on the north side of Chicago, in the north suburbs. It was cushy. Like, my parents did really well. I can't complain about that. But I have to tell you that even with this beautiful life that they set up for us, we had plenty of things going on in the closet that I really struggled with as a kid. Now, it sounds silly, but I'm going to give you some examples. I vividly remember some of the absurd rules that my parents had growing up when I was a kid. One of them was about curfew, okay? How many of you have children? All right. My parents, believe it or not, they really believed that if you were on time for curfew, you were late. Do you have that with your children? Yeah? You probably do. Like, I vividly remember, scarred for life. Vividly remember, I was 16, I was driving a Jeep Patriot, a white Jeep Patriot. I thought it was the coolest girl in town, just so y'all know. And I pulled in the driveway at 10 o'clock. Now, 10 o'clock was curfew, okay? I got out of my car, locked it, opened up the garage, walked in the door, and my father was sitting at my kitchen table. And he was like, do you know what time it is? I was like, it's 10 o'clock. He's like, it's 10:02. I was like, well, yeah, I mean, I parked the car where I had a spot that I parked every single time, but to walk in, the garage code didn't work the first time. I got plugged in twice, right? And then I walked in, I'm like, I was on time. I was in the driveway. He's like, honey, you are not on time until your feet are in this mudroom, which was the first place that you walked in when you were in the garage. You ended up in the mudroom. He was like, you ain't on time. He took the car away for 3 weeks. 3 weeks. You're not in your head. You know how this is. Oh my gosh. And I worked full-time all through college. So when I needed to get to my job, it wasn't so fun when I didn't have the car anymore, right? Okay. Absurd rule. Not on time, you're late. No jeans at the dinner table. Anyone have this rule? Please, I would love to meet you. My parents are the only people I know in the entire planet, and I speak all over. Yes? Y'all, we got to talk. You and me, can we talk later? Okay, growing up, I got into teaching, actually, because I was a dance instructor. All through high school, I loved it, right? It was like, I thought I was going to be a dancer, and then I realized you had to be, like, thin and whatever. So I went, I just taught it instead, and I loved teaching dance, loved it. And I would go to school at high school. I'd go to school all day, and then I'd go to the dance studio, and I'd be there till, like, 8 o'clock at night, come home, and, of course, you'd eat dinner, and you do homework, and you go to bed. And every single time, I'd come home in, like, a leotard and tights, right? I'd have to go upstairs, go change into, like, a dress or black pants, come downstairs and eat dinner. I'm not kidding. We had formal dinners every single night. Some of you are nodding your head. Okay, you can go move in with my mama, okay? Oh, man, it was quite a lifestyle. No jeans at the dinner table. Could you imagine trying to explain to your friends that they could come over for dinner, but they had to approve their dinner outfit with you before they came over? I've had friends that came over in leggings. Woo! Could you imagine leggings at my parents' house? And I'd have to be like, you're going to have to go home and change, or you can like borrow some of my pants, because you can't sit at my mama's kitchen table with that. Not good. All right. Third rule we're going to touch on. I love bashing my parents. Oh my God, they're amazing people. No technology at the dinner table. This one's pretty common, right? As a kid, though, I had this beautiful pink Razor phone, the flip phone. You remember those? Okay. And I could not believe that I couldn't have that next to me when I was at dinner table. My parents are workaholics for all intents and purposes, in the best way possible. Loved work. And we would sit at the kitchen table, beautifully set. I think everything in my memory of my childhood happened at the kitchen table. It's a very big staple in my household. And we would sit there, and there would be ringing all over the house. My parents' phone, my sister's phone, but you couldn't stand up and get it. No technology at the dinner table. I was so mad. This was kind of a great gif of my childhood. It was like, ha, 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 ha. It was awful. No, it really wasn't. This is how I always felt. They'd be like, oh, your parents are so great. And I'm like, oh, yeah, oh, no, it's crazy. Gotta love this little kid. But it's funny. It really is funny because as I've grown up, I kind of get it now. I really do. Like, my reality as a child was so different than how it is now. Like, that late curfew rule, like, that had nothing to do with curfew. It had to do with showing up when you said you were going to show up, right? It had to do with being able to stick to your word when you said we were going to do something. It had to do with making a promise and knowing that it was so important for you to show up for that person and keep your promise. Or what about the jeans rule, right? Like, the jeans rule, as absurd as that rule still is, and still is, by the way. I live about 2.5 hours from my parents' house, and when I go visit with my husband, we dress for dinner. But it had so much more to do with the fact that they didn't like Levi's, right? It had to do with the fact that they wanted us to understand that you needed to show up for people, that you needed to make a purposeful moment of intention to be present with people, that you can't just move from one stage of life to the next without taking time to pause and be there every single night. And it also allowed me to build up a really great wardrobe. So that was nice. The last one, the no technology, that one I really get. I cannot tell you how many times I lean over to my family and I'm like, let's just put the phones down, right? Let's get off social media. Let's just sit all together and actually have time together. That's what that was about. It wasn't about the phones ringing. It wasn't about anything in between. It was about actually taking time to appreciate your loved ones, the people that were present in that room with you. Because not every interaction we have can be through our phones. We need to be present with people, just like we're present with each other right now. So it's funny, because for the majority of my life, this is how I looked at my parents. And I love picking on them, and they know this presentation. They've actually sat where you are sitting right now as I'm talking about their absurdities, but I have so much respect for my family. But this is the face that I lived with my entire upbringing when they would tell me things. And it's comical because when we finally start talking back about education, this is how we often look at our IT leaders. These are how we look at new technology sometimes. We are sitting in a staff meeting. I don't know how y'all do your staff meetings, but in the school that I work in, we all sit in one big room, and there's someone up front talking at you, which is modeling poor practice. This is what I'm doing right now. And they are telling you about this new thing that you have to now do. Right? They're essentially adding to your never-ending to-do list that you already have. Doesn't matter how cool the tech tool is. Doesn't matter how awesome it is. It's another thing that you need to worry about. It's another thing that you need to add to your to-do list. And the best part is they usually have these meetings at the busiest of times in your school year. Right? Teachers are jugglers. And more often than not, your tech leaders, your admin are standing up front and they are telling you that they got another thing for you and they haven't taken anything away. Really, I guess if we're talking tech, it's more like this. Like, this is really how it feels. But there's more to that. Because what we're going to talk about today is that those people that are adding to your to-do list have more forward thinking than we see right now. When you sit in a staff meeting and somebody's in front of you telling about a new thing, you're thinking about that immediate rule, how that affects you, rather than looking at that long-term vision of what they see for you, how it's going to impact your class, how it's going to impact your students, that long-term vision that I didn't see with my parents growing up. We often don't see those with our IT leadership. We often don't see those with our administrators. We see it as another to-do list when really they're trying to be innovative and help us be more successful in our life. So today we're going to dive into a lot of information. It's going to be really good, and I promise I'll try and make you laugh because no one likes to sit there and just watch some girl with a microphone. But the first thing I want to do is get to know each other. I told you a little bit about my upbringing, but I've actually grown up since that point, so it'd be nice for you to learn a little bit more about my professional background. Then we're going to go into the types of people that we work with. Now, this is really like the meat of what we're diving into, right? Like we are going to talk about the types of teachers that exist, the type of educators that exist, and not just the problems with those mindsets, but how we are finally going to fix them. Now, I don't care if you consider yourself a administrator, a leader in tech. These are strategies to start supporting each other. But you can only support people that you understand, just like our students. If you're a good educator, you are spending time getting to know your students just like we need to spend time to get to know our teachers. So we're going to dive into how to actually support those people around you no matter what role you have. Because you are still being a helper to the people around you, even if you're popping in their classroom with a quick question, or if you have a degree that tells you that you should be a leader. The last thing we're going to talk about is how we're going to change the mission, start breaking down those walls. So let's get started. Are you bored yet? You doing okay? I saw somebody hold up their phone like they were tweeting, and in my mind I was like, oh, I'm so proud. Woo! This is going to be great. Like I told you, you can get as much out of this as you want. I had a college professor. Now I'm getting sidetracked. I had a college professor sit in class, and the first thing she said to me is that you can get anything out of this class that you need if you act like the student you wish you had in your class. So I want to ask you, throughout this hour, what kind of student do you want to be? You want to be a student that sits back and just soaks it all in? Do you want to be an active participant? Do you want to advocate for your needs? That's a student I want you to be here today. Because I didn't come over to Arkansas, which, by the way, I'm moving here. It is gorgeous. I live in central Illinois, which I should get to later, and it is flat farm, okay? Come in here, you all have trees, you got hills, holy moly. I called my husband last night. I drove in at like 9 o'clock at night, and I'm like, I'm not leaving. I'm going to figure out how I'm going to live in Hot Springs, okay? It's so nice here. I got sidetracked, but I love Hot Springs. It's fabulous. But as you look at what you're going to get out of today, what you're going to get out of this hour, what you're going to get out of all the sessions you're going to today, like that is all on you. You can take as much or as little as you want, but I want you to take as much as you can. So for me, my name is Ray Hewart. I'm currently a 6th grade math teacher, mean old math teacher. That's my job. I love it. Yeah, see? You're participating because you want to get a lot out of today, and I love that. I am a mean old 6th grade math teacher, and I'm proud of it, okay? I teach 6th graders. They are smelly and sarcastic. We have all the problems of every middle school that I'm sure all of you have seen, where our kids have just a mess of problems, truly. In the school that I work in, it's actually fascinating. I live in a town where we have a big company headquarters. So it's like pretty wealthy area. And then the school's in the middle, and on the other side, we have about 7 or 8 trailer parks. So our school has no middle ground. We have a socioeconomic huge gap. And so as we're going through this process, we have really dealt with trying to fill in the gaps of our students, not only learning, but in every other component of teaching that whole child. So I love it. Been in that building for a while. On the flip side, I'm also the director of training and development for the Teach Better team, which for me is a vessel. It allows me to travel around and work with teachers. I love teachers. I can't believe that I get to work with students by day and hang out with teachers by night. Whether I'm traveling like something like this, getting to hang out at a conference, whether I'm doing a free professional development on Facebook. I mean, regardless of what it is, it's amazing to be able to fill my schedule with passionate people that are eager to grow. You know, the Teach Better team has one philosophy: better today than you were yesterday, better tomorrow than you were today. And if I can be around people that are just trying to take an ounce away of that mentality, God, it like fills me back up. It like fills my bucket. I love it. So as you're thinking about today, you'll get the most out of today if you really think about how it relates to your life. I do professional development on a ton of different topics. Sometimes I'm working with school districts on mastery learning, trying to personalize a student's approach. Sometimes I'm working with teachers on how to partner with their community to build themed internships sponsored by local businesses so our students understand the relevancy of their content. Sometimes I'm teaching whole districts how they're going to make the transition to standard-based grading. Regardless of what we're working on, none of it matters if it doesn't apply to you. So today, I need you to consider, what's your role in education? Where are you at? What's your grade level? How are you going to overcome the hurdles that you have, and how can this information support you in doing that? So we have 8 types of teachers. We did a little study, and we looked at a lot of different types of personalities, lots of different teachers, broken down to 8. Obviously, there are a cajillion type of teachers. But these key 8 is what we find consistently throughout districts all over this country. And so we are going to dive into all 8. And we're not just going to look at all 8, but we're going to talk about the 2 things that you can do immediately for them and the type of follow-up that those teachers need from you to be supported. Whew. Think you know all these 8? Maybe? All right. How about the one that is too scared to touch technology? Ever heard of those people? Come on. Yeah, I love it. You're raising your hand. That either means that you are one of those people or it means that you know one and they're sitting next to you, right? All right. What about this one? What about the one who believes that technology is taking over the world? These are those people that are sitting here and they're like, she said Twitter, ooh, right? Okay. Yep, I'm with you. All right. What about the one who's so eager to learn, but they're completely clueless, right? This is Mr. Sharp, my first year teaching. Someday I'm going to say that to an audience and he's going to be like in the audience. Mr. Sharp, I love him. I helped him every morning, my first year teaching, turn on his computer. He had been teaching for, 22 years. And, he needed me. It was nice. All right, what about the one who's completely stuck on a tech tool? Like you showed them that one tool that one time, and they are using it for every darn thing that they can, and then they're emailing you, and they're like, hey, this update isn't working. You're like, yeah, because the tool's 12 years old, right? Microsoft Word. Okay, thank you. All right, what about the one who's the opposite, who's using technology for everything? Like you walk in the room and the kids like sign in on technology and then they go in and they do one more thing on a laptop and then do one more thing on a robot and you're like, we got to get some balance here. All right. What about the one who wants to try everything you show them? Like you show them one thing and immediately they take it and they use it. How do you support those teachers? How do you support the teacher that's killing it? Like, this is like the teacher's pet of every tech coach, right? Like the one that you come to and they're like essentially doing your job with you. Those teachers can't be ignored. How do you support those people? How can they keep growing? It's not always by just attending a conference. What can we do for them? All right. What about this one? What about the one, these people usually aren't in the room at conferences. I won't lie to you. What about the one who doesn't realize they need to learn? Now, I say that to you because if you're one of these people, you don't know it. Think about that, right? Y'all are sitting in this audience and you're like, ha, 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 that's not me. That probably means it's you, right? You don't realize you got to learn. All right, so we're going to dive into all 8 of these, and I want you to really be thinking about what people that you're working with fit into these categories so that you can actually help them. Yes, we're going to keep picking on them, but we're also going to be talking about how to help them. We're going to start with an easy one, okay? Easy one. The one who believes technology is taking over the world. These teachers need you to get on their level. These teachers have concerns. Whether you agree with them or not, you ain't going to change anything unless you start talking to them on their level about what their concerns are. This is a teacher who really needs you to listen, even though it's hard. And you also need to make sure that when you respond, it is with their concerns and you don't dismiss them. They also really need the focus on the conversation to be on their learning experience rather than replacing a tool that already exists. So this is not a teacher where you need to be handing them a Chromebook instead of a piece of paper. They are worried about technology already, but show them a tool that they can literally not accomplish that task without the tool. There are thousands of things that we could not do years ago that we can now with technology. That's how you reach these teachers. The third thing is always going to be the follow-up, and this is important. I do professional development all over. There are districts, there are administrators, sorry admin, I don't mean to pick on you. There are admins spending thousands of dollars to bring a speaker in who's there once, to talk about an initiative once. Follow-up is the most important thing that you can do for an educator. It is the most important thing that you can do for your professional development. These teachers, it's easy. They need lesson examples, and they need you to visit. They need you to pop in. They need it to be a continued conversation. And when I say example lessons, I mean example lessons of those things that they can't do without tech. They'll benefit most from that. What about this one? The one who's eager but clueless. Like you gotta start from ground zero, turning on a computer. How many of you are those people? Can you admit it? You can't. There's no way. No? Some of you like reached up to like scratch your arm, I'm not saying I am, but I'm not saying I'm not, right? No, these people, you probably don't find them at a tech, conference. That makes sense, right? But they need support. So where do you even begin with these educators? Can you think of one? Ooh, whoa. Was that fun? Okay. Did you enjoy that as much as I did? Okay. Let's go back. Oh my. This is cool. It would be cool if it would go back, but maybe not. Eager but clueless? Cool. Can you think of one of these people? I asked you that earlier. Can you? Do you have a Mr. Sharp in your life? You're nodding your head. I appreciate that. Participating. See, you're trying to get something out of this. This is good. No, these people really need those live video tutorials. Truly. They need you to be able to break down things in bite-sized pieces. My suggestion, 3 to 5 minute videos. No longer. You can't. Break them down so small, like we do for our students, that when they need to find something, they have a labeled video with that skill. So I haven't told you much about my classroom, but in my classroom, my students operate within themed internships that are sponsored by local businesses through a self-paced mastery framework where they move throughout their internship learning content at their own pace. That was a lot of words. But the fact is that because they're learning in a mastery classroom, we break things down so small because you want them to master a content piece before moving forward, like you would for any of your students. That is the same that we need to do for these teachers. How do you log into Google? Here is just how to log in. Don't show them anything else. If it takes a second video, do a few more, but you want to make sure that when you communicate with these teachers, these are bite-sized pieces. They also really need the communication and brainstorming. That's because they're eager, but they don't even know where to start. And as a leader, you don't know where to help them and how far back you need to backtrack. So those conversations, those brainstorming sessions are really important for them to generate the questions so that you can support them. Last but not least, follow-up, check-ins. All focus on reflection. There's a lot of check-ins you can do. You can just send an email and be like, hey, how you doing? These people need more guidance. You need to make sure you are reflecting with them. Ask them those reflection questions. At the end of my class hour with my students have 5 minutes to goal set and reflect about their work session. I ask them to answer 3 questions. What did you learn? How well did you understand it? And what, how, when? What's your new goal? When are you going to do it? What's your plan? Who do you need help to get you there? Those reflection cue questions will be really important for a teacher who's really eager but doesn't know where to start. All right, the one stuck on one tech tool. I need you to turn and talk. I know, very middle school. I want you to think of a tech tool that you could be stuck on or that you've seen a teacher stuck on. Go. Y'all ain't talking. Try again. All right, guys, we're going to do this activity. You're going to turn and talk, and then you're going to think of one tech tool that you could be stuck on. Are you ready? Ready, set, turn and talk. All right. So for my class periods, I usually go, holy moly, and the kids respond, guacamole. For you, I wasn't going to do that, but maybe I should. All right, here we go. Holy moly. Ooh, Some of y'all were listening. I'm so proud. I really do that. I steal those from other teachers, though, you should know. I don't make any of those up. We do like to infinity. That was so weak. I saw this great keynote one time in Illinois, which is where I live, and he was talking so fast. I'm sure you see I kind of talk a little fast, a little bit. You still with me? Yeah? And he used to say, I'm going to check that you're with me, so when I say check, you say check. Check? All right, and that confirms. I do that with my students, and it also is really good to get their attention because if the whole world screams check and they're like, whoa, what? And then they're back with you, right? All right, what was the tech tool that you shared out? Can you yell a few out? PowerPoint. Oh, yeah. PowerPoint. Woo! Give me another. Edpuzzle. Great tool. Could be overused. Totally agree. So is PowerPoint. I mean, good tool. It could be overused. Give me one more. Kahoot. Oh my God, yes. Woo! Oh my gosh, yes. All right, I lied. I want one more, and remember, I challenge you to be the student that you wish you had. So imagine you're up here in this black dress. Some of y'all would look real good in this, okay? I want you to yell out the tech tool that you think somebody could get stuck on. Active Directory. Good job being the only person who decided to participate. I like this guy. You'd look great in this black dress, just so you know. Just making sure you know. All right, so how do you support these teachers, right? The first thing is to talk about purpose. Now, that is my big deal. I always say fluff ain't enough. You need some purpose. These people need to know what the purpose is behind their tool. This is a big topic when we talk about Bloom's taxonomy and Webb's depth of knowledge. One evaluates how you are designing your lesson, and one requires you to have grit and purpose with it. So you're talking about PowerPoint. PowerPoint is cool that you're creating something, but then what's in it? That's what matters. So when you're looking here, talking about purpose of that technology piece is the first step. Then you need to talk about 3 hurdles and 3 tools for success. So I have a teacher I actually currently do this with. No kidding. He actually lives in Ohio. I met him during a workshop one time, and I decided we're going to be best friends, this poor man. He is a high school math teacher, and we connected because he wanted to know why he couldn't go page by page in his textbook. And I was like, oh, okay, we're starting from there. That's really helpful for me to know. So as he's gone through his few years knowing me, I think I met him about 2 years ago, we do this once a month. I go through, tell me 3 hurdles you had this month, and then I send him through email, or we sometimes use Voxer, 3 tech tools that solve that problem. These people need those bite-sized pieces, but when you talk about problems that they're having, that's where you can start introducing other forms of technology. If I handed him a Chromebook, he wouldn't know what to do with it, right? But he knows, he's actually a Kahoot person, for those Kahoot people. So I know that Kahoot's great. Why is it so great? Well, it's engaging. Okay, what are some other engaging things that I can share with you? So allowing them to lead the conversation by first identifying the hurdles really makes for the conversation to be easier when you're trying to introduce other tools. Last piece is a weekly 2 tech tool suggestion page. You can do this in a newsletter, you can do it in an email, but allowing them to be experienced to the new app, new tool that you're looking to introduce. My suggestion to you is to not just talk about it, but include a picture of what the icon looks like, because it's really hard to find those sometimes. Include the title, and then in one sentence, I feel like I tweet this all the time, in one sentence, tell me why I should use it. So it's a short email. Yeah? Check? Y'all, you're so weak. My 6th graders are so well, crafted. I say things and they know to clap. If I'm like, oh, thank you. Some of y'all didn't even clap. Look at you. I'll make you come up here. All right. Sometimes I say things and they have to laugh because it was funny. Yeah, okay. Yeah. And when I say check, they're like, check. It is hardcore in my classroom. You got that one kid that's not paying attention. He's like a millisecond off, and everyone turns. What's going on? You ain't with us anymore? It's funny. All right, let's go back to this. All right, the one who uses technology for everything. These are rare. These are a special type of breed of educator, right? These are educators that have access to technology,
which we'll talk about equity later, access to technology, and they are using it and 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 using it. Believe it or not, you can overuse a tool. You can. So what these need is they need to first have a conversation on on balance. There is balance needed in our classroom. So when we start looking at balance, that's going to be the first thing. When you start having that conversation, include data. We don't care about your opinion. Go get research to show about how balance is important for our students to be learning. The next thing is also brainstorm technology that doesn't use screen time, like robots or other, I say robots like I'm like, old. I'm like, robots are cool. No, but really, there are so many tech tools out there. You don't need a laptop computer. You don't need a phone necessarily There's a lot of things out there, so start exploring them. We don't need our students to transition from looking at a textbook for 8 hours a day to looking at a laptop for 8 hours a day, right? Right? Okay, so that means that you need to help those people, whether you're a leader in technology or not. If you're in that building, if you're in the school, you're a leader. You need to help other teachers find tools that are outside of laptop use that they can use. All right, but how do you follow up with them? I know it sounds silly, but you need to reflect. I know I'm going to go back to reflection, but there are 1,000 ways to follow up with a teacher, and you have to ask them those reflection questions. For example, if I was a student in your classroom, how often would I use my laptop? How often would I use my phone? How often would I use VR or AR? So being able to spark that conversation is really, really important. The one who wants to try everything. How many of these people are you? Try everything, right? You're walking around today and you're like, wow, this is amazing. I'm going to take that back in August. I'm going to take that, use that in September, right? All right, none of these teachers are bad. They just all need different supports. And it's more often than not that these teachers, if you raise your hand, you're not being challenged in your school building. You're probably one of the people that people look up to. They might ask you questions, but who's coming to your room and asking you to do some reflection, asking you to do more? So these teachers are often not the ones that are supported, and every single person in this room, including myself, needs to be learning and be supported. So we're looking here. Brainstorm choosing the right options for student needs. It's not always appropriate to use every tool you've seen with your kids. You know your students in your building, in your classroom better than I do. So which tools make sense for you in your content level and with conjunction with the other people working around you? Provide an outlet for these teachers to try technology outside of the classroom. I have a few teachers I work with that they find a really cool tech tool. It doesn't really fit with their classroom. It doesn't really work with their content, but they want to use it. So they take time maybe away from content to just play a little bit. You can do that during other times, right? Like our classroom time is for our students to get that rigor, to go through our content. Whether we like it or not, y'all's job is to teach standards. It just is, right? And we have all different ways of doing that. But when we're looking at using technology, if it doesn't fit, let's find other opportunities. Let's incorporate it for lunch. Let's incorporate it in a study hall. Let's incorporate it in a before or after school activity. And not only that, but when you explore it as an educator, you should lead some professional development on it. So the teachers that it does make sense for in their classroom, you can teach them how to do it. The support that they need is just to share their experience. These teachers are all-stars, and they need to have a voice. So whether you are designing what a staff meeting agenda looks like or not, allow this teacher to share. You can blog, you can do a video, you can email me, we could do a Facebook Live together, right? Share your insight, because it is selfish for you to have all this information and not be sharing it with people. Kind of like when I was telling you all should be tweeting during this, or be on Instagram and doing an Instagram story, or on Facebook, because there are thousands of educators that don't have access to what you're getting today at this conference, yesterday at this conference, 2 days ago at this conference. So you have not only a responsibility to bring it back to your students, but a responsibility to better the educators around us, because there are thousands that are not here. All right. What about this one? The one that's killing it. How many of you feel like you're killing it with technology? Can you admit it over the summer? There's got to be people in here. The people who are killing it are often the ones that are least supported because they're already doing well, right? We focus on the teachers that can't turn on their computer, but what about the teachers who really need to be challenged because they already are hungry for it? The teachers killing it, we need to celebrate them and challenge them as much as possible, because just because they're doing well doesn't mean that they can't do better. We can do that by a lot of different opportunities. I always encourage them to be very similar to the other teacher we were talking to. Go blog, go present, go share at a conference. How many of you are presenting during a conference, this conference? Good. It's not enough of you. How many of you have shared at a conference this year? Oh, it's not enough of you. How many of you have shared at a conference or some sort of professional development event in the past 5 years? You have so much insight to share. And you may not even know what to share. Email me. Let's figure it out. Let's talk. There are so many problems with education, and the answers exist in the classrooms we already have set up in this country. You have to share, especially if you're somebody who considers themselves as doing pretty well. You're doing pretty well, and you need to share so that other teachers can do pretty well too. Following up with these people, I always go back to the research. Share with them what's going on, what's new. Our world is changing 1,000 miles a minute. You might be killing it right now, and you won't be killing it in a year. So how can we keep you progressive? What books should you be reading? What articles being published? Those are the type of exploration that these teachers need. And the last piece I always like to add is you might be killing it in tech, but you may not be killing it in best practice. So trying to talk to that teacher about student ownership. Are you killing it in tech, or are your students killing it in tech? Are you doing really well with your professional development, or are your students growing really well from your professional development? So looking at those other elements can be really, really important. All right, I put these together. Oh man, again? This is because I'm like holding multiple things. It was a bad idea to give Ray a mic, let's be honest here, okay? I talk pretty loud, right? Oh, you liar, I can't, whatever. Now you're at least awake because you can make fun of Ray, it'd be fine. All right, let's talk about these teachers. I put them together for a really important reason. First, the one who doesn't realize they need to learn. Some of you realize this was you today. No, I'm just kidding. The other one is that you're too scared to touch technology. These teachers need very similar support, and it all starts with the okay maybe zone. I was on a drive. I live in central Illinois right now, and to drive to Chicago is about 2.5 hours north. And so I sit on the interstate. We call it an interstate. Do you call it an interstate here? I feel like it's like soda and pop, like you call it, what do you guys call it? Whoa. What if you don't want Coke? Where are we? Hot Springs. Come on. All right. So when you go to McDonald's, we got to talk about this. Okay, do you have McDonald's? You do. Okay. Guys, I just am here for lunch, let's be honest. I'm going to get Coke, too. All right, you go up to drive-thru, right? I'm like, hey, I would like a Big Mac and a sweet tea, I get you. Okay, but what if I wanted, like, a Sprite? Okay, so, like, or a Sierra Mist. So I have to use the name. It's not Coke for everything. You're saying I need to use the name of what I want. No. Y'all gotta come to Illinois. You drive up, they're like, hi, I'd like a Big Mac. And they're like, with what drink? I'm like, a soda? And then they have to ask, what kind? That's how that goes. You don't understand. You're gonna come to Illinois. I'm gonna show you, okay? What kind of, because there's a lot of kinds now. Coke Zero, Diet Coke, vanilla. I am canceling my session next session, and I am having a Coke analysis with all of you, okay? We are not talking about professional growth in my next session, okay? We are talking about ordering a soda, okay? All right, we got off track, and now I cannot even. We're talking about the okay maybe zone. I was drinking a Coke while driving on the interstate, and you're welcome. All right, there you go. And as I was driving, I was on the phone with the teacher I'd been connected a long time on Twitter. I won't lie to you. I think this is being recorded, so hopefully Jeff Gargis doesn't hear this. I have a love-hate relationship with Twitter. I think it's a nuisance, but I've gotten a lot of value from it. That's a whole separate story. And I was on the phone with somebody who had reached out via Twitter to hop on a phone call. I love phone calls with people. His name was Jeffrey Austin. He's still alive. Sorry about that. His name is Jeffrey Austin. We're on the phone. He lives in Michigan. And he probably says pop. And we were talking about resistant educators. And I'm like, you got to get the people you're talking to the okay maybe zone. You know that zone? You guys, there's probably a few of you in here who had it today while I was talking, or maybe you haven't had it yet, and that's a problem, where you've proven yourself enough as somebody who can deliver you value that the person sits back and goes, okay, maybe, right? They're like, okay, maybe I'm willing to listen to some of what you're saying, right? I'm open-minded just enough, just as open as like that door is back there, just a little bit, right? I'm just open, and that's when they can start learning. So start looking at okay maybe zone. I often call it like an adjective. Like you literally need to get your student, your learner, your educator, whoever you're working with, to the point where they aren't up against you like a brick wall, and they start sitting back and they're like, this girl may not be as crazy as I thought she was. She might be adding value to my learning, okay? And so I love the okay maybe zone because it's the difference where you're being open-minded. Because open-minded is a big deal. We don't talk about that a lot with our students, but it's a huge reality of why relationships is so important. Because with a relationship, you're automatically open-minded. So to do this, there's a few things you need to do. You need to focus on their story, like kind of meet them where they're at. You need to understand their background knowledge, and you need to paint the picture of where you're headed. If I started today by just talking to you about IT and the relationships between teachers, you may not have been open-minded to me. When I started picking on my parents, a lot of you were like, who's this girl think she is, right? Her mama's going to be so mad. You got to get them open-minded, and some of that starts by painting a picture of where you're going so you can talk about the steps in between. When you're doing this, starting with the why is essential. If you don't start with the why with your learners, whether it be a student or a teacher, you're missing a huge opportunity. Starting with the why is a must. Then you need to stay focused on your students. When you're working with a teacher, every part of that conversation needs to be about your kids, about those students. Incorporate models of persuasion. How many of you took high school English? Yeah? They taught you in class like how to persuade people in an argumentative essay or persuasive essay? Yeah? We use that when we work with our learners. We are constantly trying to tap in to whatever can pull on their heartstrings, right, and get them interested. That's something you still need to use when you're working with educators. And the last thing is you need to make it manageable. I know a lot of you in here said, oh, I'm a classroom teacher. No one's actually just a classroom teacher. You got about 1,000 million hats y'all are wearing, and one of them that I hope you've gotten on today is the fact that you are a leader in this progressive movement, and without you, no movement's going to be made. So when you're talking about making things manageable, that's those bite-sized pieces. Don't go the whole, you can't start with the big picture and not tell them any of the small steps in between. So you got to take that manageable approach. All right, okay maybe zone? Feel like you're in the okay maybe zone? Some of you? How many of you have not reached the okay maybe zone yet? I have not done my job. All right. Last thing is talking about fears. These two educators, the two educators we're talking about right now, the ones who don't realize they need to learn and the one who's too scared of technology, what is holding you back? Because if you don't talk about the elephant in the room, you can't get anywhere. Talk about their fears. Now, to be honest with you, usually that's scary for us. For you, it's scary to ask people what they're scared of because what if you don't know the answer? The reality is, every piece of information that you want to learn right now, everything, tech-related, how to parent better, why the world turns, right? Everything is available on the internet for free in a podcast or video. If your job right now is to just deliver content as a human being in the classroom, Google has taken your job alongside YouTube, and y'all better start finding a new job. Because there is a reality that everything is possible to find on the internet. Do not be scared of talking about other people's fears, because that is where real conversation starts. And if you know the answer, you can find it, or you can email me, and I can find it for you. Because we got to tackle those fears first. Last but not least is it has to be in those bite-sized pieces. I love video support. How many of you have recorded a video before? Okay, most of you. When you're talking about recording a video, it's really an opportunity to get something on the books that when they need again, you can send them that information. I repeat myself 1,000 times in a classroom, or I can do it once in a video. So that's a possible medium that you can use to support others. All right. So I went through the 8 teachers. Was there any educator that you were thinking about that didn't fit into that category? Some people usually, when I ask that, are like, maybe. And the reality is, there might be. Totally. Or they might like fit into 2, right? That's okay. This whole conversation that we've had this morning was about supporting people. And the reality is just like our students, there's not 8 ways to support your kids. There's a million ways. So when we start looking at that, my hope is that as we dove into these 8 types of teachers, we start thinking about addressing people by asking reflective questions, addressing people by talking about the hard conversations, like their fears, supporting people by having consistent follow-up, because without follow-up, we become stagnant, and allowing yourself to not just be a classroom teacher, but to be able to see yourself as the leader you are, because I lead 150 middle schoolers every single day for 180 days of the school year. If you're able to lead your students, you are able to be a leader with your colleagues. It's just the reality. So what's next? I was doing an activity over the course of 6 months where I collected quotes from teachers. And so I have some I'm going to share with you right now. This is from Adam from Illinois. You know, it's a great state, Illinois. We say soda. Another meeting about another tool I don't have time for. What does Adam need? He's sitting in a staff meeting, and this is his thought. What would he benefit from? Consider this like a summative assessment, people. Okay? Did you pay attention in class? You didn't know you're going to be tested. You want me to start over? What? Lesson plan example, sure. To talk about why that tool could be used or how it could be used, awesome. Talking about student impact, making it easy. Yep, cool. Technology is only for projects. I don't do projects in my classroom. I love this. Steve from Ohio. He was really fun to talk to, let me tell you. He's like, I don't do projects. I'm a writing teacher. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't help you. He was almost as bad as that math teacher. Oh man. No, I'm gonna make fun of them because they know that they're in the presentation. Is technology only for projects? What if I think that? What can we do? Bite-sized pieces? Yeah. If they think that's only for projects, I'm gonna get a tech tool that doesn't really take much effort, and I'm gonna show them how it has nothing to do with a project. And I'm gonna facilitate with them, either showing them a lesson plan that they can use or helping them with a lesson plan that I can co-teach with them so they can see how to use it. Absolutely. Ooh, some research would be good. I love it. Yeah, we also had to address why they need to be using projects. Yeah, that will be separate. Totally. Absolutely. That teacher has a lot of issues we should talk about. Do you want me to call him right now? We could get him on the phone. Yeah. That's my favorite thing with my students. Is I say something about my mom or my dad or my husband or my sister. My sister lives in Scotland. And so we call them in class. I'm like, you don't believe me? Let's see. Call him right now, right? We could go call Steve later. All right. I don't know what problem it solves in my classroom. I can't waste my time or energy on it. What's Nikki missing? Purpose, right? The reality is if you're leading this and Nikki says that, you haven't done your job yet. There's something really interesting in education. I won't get off track again, but that's a lie. Teachers think they spend all day teaching. And then they come back and they're like, I don't know why they didn't learn. You haven't taught if no one learned anything. Do you know that? It's just the plain old fact. I haven't taught you anything today if you walk out and you just say how much you like my heels, right? That's not going to work. If you don't gain anything from this, we haven't grown together. And I haven't done my job. So as we talk about purpose, if you have somebody communicating this in professional development, you still got work to do. When I know where to go for a tool I'm looking for, I'm more likely to use it. That's a big deal. If you're a tech leader or any sort of leader and you are organizing tools, it needs to be in a way that a teacher naturally understands where to find them. I know that sounds silly, and a lot of teachers use websites to communicate tools. I think it's the next slide. That's what I wanted to see. Thank God it was the next slide. I've already obviously clicked through it enough. Teachers are already using scaffolding to structure their lesson plans. Whether you consider yourself an excellent teacher or a mediocre teacher, you are scaffolding your information in some way. Maybe you don't even know that you're using the common Bloom's taxonomy or Webb's depth of knowledge. I just did a professional development on this on Facebook last week. I think that's why it's on my mind. Oh, good, clicking ahead. But the reality is that you can deliver tools, or you can deliver them in a way that a teacher would best benefit from them. I'm not saying that this is necessarily the pyramid I would use at all. This is just a visual image. But what I want you to know is that if we already have teachers that are doing 1,000 things, when you support them that in a way that incorporates the work that they're already doing rather than adding another layer. When a teacher is able to give me a tool to use that directly aligns with how I'm already structuring my lesson plans, it's very helpful. Now, the last element of this is how we're going to put all these puzzle pieces together. Get it? Get it? Puzzle pieces. See the image? Thank you. You know, someday I'm going to do this with my 6th graders. Like, I'm going to seat you like adult, 6th grader, adult, 6th grader. And they'll be like, this is when you laugh. Like, now. You know, and like, we're clapping, right? This is how it works. All right. So what I want you to see are the next steps that you can take. I really want you to be transparent. You have an entire day of professional development that you're about to begin, and hopefully have begun before today, but still, it's the rest of today, okay? You need to not only be transparent with what you need for yourself, but be transparent with the people that you're going to support in the next few months. I want you to think about action through listening. You cannot accomplish anything if you're the first one talking. You have to listen. I visited Ron Clark Academy in Atlanta. Have you heard of it? Yeah, okay. Some of you are nodding your head. If you don't know it, it's a school in Atlanta. And he did a shtick where he sat there and he showed you how to listen to a parent. I'll never forget it. He sat and he's like, you just sit, you put your hands in your lap, and you ask them a question, and you just nod. And the reality is that a lot of our colleagues need that. They just need to feel heard to get that to that okay maybe zone. Consider time. Nobody has time. Don't add to their list. Try and help them see that their time would be valued by doing these tools. Make sure that they're targeted. If you're just throwing aimless tech tools at them without purpose, without showing them the connection, they really can lose in that magic. So really make sure that you're providing that targeted value. And the last thing I want you to consider is that open door policy. When I said that I want to connect with you, when I said to tweet at me, when I said that I got on the phone with somebody and had a conversation, I mean it. It's not an empty promise. You need to have an open door policy because I'm going to have it with you, and I really hope you have it for your colleagues. It's okay to be overwhelmed and to be like, hey, I would love to help you. Can we reschedule? It's not okay to not be available for others. We live in a world where we need to be available for others. And that open door policy not only applies to how you're going to change your leadership if you haven't already, but also applies to our relationship that we've begun today. That if you need something, I'm going to give you my phone number, 847-721-5503. Got on my business card. Y'all can have it anytime you want. I want you to call me. Because this world of education can go one way or another. They are not talking about us very nicely on the news. And we are the only one that can control and change that narrative. So we got to start working together. That open door policy is a big deal as we all start growing, no matter at what capacity. My last thing that I want to make sure I give to you before we end today is my contact information. Again, my name's Ray Hewart. I love every element of talking to teachers, learning from teachers. I have gained more in the past few months, past few years, working with teachers than I ever thought I could possibly imagine. And I am on literally every platform. I'm giving you my email. Like I said, I will give you my phone number. I don't know why it's up there, but I want to stay connected because we are doing really good work, and I want to be a part of the good work that you're doing. You can find me at, it's ray@teachbetter.com is my email, or at Ray Hewart on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, anything in between that we can connect. And the last thing I want to let you know is the work I do with the Teach Better team is trying to inspire teachers to teach better today than they did yesterday and teach better tomorrow than they did today. Obviously, it's the summer, so take that with a grain of salt. But the reality is that the easiest way for us to do that is to continue this conversation. So if you are on Facebook, we have a Facebook group called Teach Better Team. You have to request to join. As long as you're a teacher, we'll let you in. And we have teachers consistently throughout the day. I will go back to my phone. The last time I looked, I had already 4 more notifications of teachers asking questions. Questions about mastery learning, questions about community engagement, questions about relevancy, question about standard-based grading, questions about philosophy. These are the questions to have that conversation. If you are at all interested in a group that is dedicated to sharing lesson plans and supporting teachers, it's a great spot for you. We'd love to have you. I hope that we're able to socialize a little bit. I got a session after this, and then I will also be at lunch. But please don't let this be the end. We have a book coming out in August called Teach Better, and I hope that we're able to have that connection as well. So thank you for all that you do, guys. I really appreciate you.
You've been listening to a special bonus episode of Ray's Keynote out at the Hot Springs Tech Institute. Make sure you head over to teachbetter.com for all the free resources and all the podcast notes for all the different episodes that we have there. Please subscribe over on your favorite podcast app. And if you can give us a rating and review, we'd really appreciate that as well. Until next time, let's get out there and let's teach better.